Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is our SEC weekly preview championship week show. For obvious reasons, we're at the end of the season. We're looking at a championship game between the University of Georgia, and they will travel from Athens to Atlanta to take on the number 9 Crimson Tide from Alabama. Because of the draw and the way it works out, Alabama will be the home team. They will be in their crimson red uniforms. They're the number 9 team in the country, and we will talk about that. But we will also discuss some of the other news and events and happenings taking on in the SEC. Brian LeBel is sitting in for Juan Daniels. Juan is a little under the weather today. If he were to be able to make it, he'd probably go, I gotta go. I can't make it. So Juan, we appreciate it. We hope that you get well soon. And our founder, co-host, Vincent Turner, as always. Vincent, good to have you with us. Too bad there's nothing happening in the SEC right now for obvious reasons. We can just talk about Arkansas and maybe South Carolina, and nobody else needs to be mentioned at all. What a shame that there's nothing going on. But obviously there is. I'm teasing. I'm joking. Big week here for the SEC.
Um, Man, I'm gonna go back to when I was maybe in college at the University of Arkansas, and we used to have parties on the weekend after we used to study so much and so hard during the week. And that was a song that was out. The roof, the roof, the roof is on fire. And you know the other lyrics to it, Harper. Back to you.
Don't let this beautiful building
Yeah.
burn, is what I think it is.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Brian, we'll
sir.
ask you. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you giving some of your free time to be a part of this. You still got 7 ranked teams in the conference. Arkansas finishes 0-8 for the first time in years, but everything else going on aside from the game, and we'll hit the game, but some big news, obviously, from a coaching perspective, isn't there?
I think LSU got a new coach, right? I think that's kind of. I think I heard whisperings of, and I think Ole Miss lost their coach right at the same time, simultaneously.
How does that happen? Yeah.
Some weird happenings. Yeah, you have a top 10 team saying, you know what, we're on our way to the playoff, and unfortunately, we're going to be there without our head coach. And then, of course, you have an unranked team who had maybe one of their worst seasons, and I can't remember the last time LSU had a season worse than this one. And all of a sudden, they're saying, oh, by the way, we may have just sniped the best coaching candidate in the country, who I don't even know how he's a candidate. I don't know. A lot of things went sour. A lot of weird stuff happened, but Lane Kiffin he's now in Baton Rouge, and um, Ole Miss has a playoff game to get ready for. It's weird times. John Summerall, sorry, but I know big hiring for him. He's going to Florida, but people aren't really talking about him, unfortunately. So, congrats to him though, right? Hey, it's huge for him. But yeah. It's the Lane Kiffin show. It always is, right? It's just Lane Kiffin's world. We're all just living in it.
All right, Vincent, you gave your gator. What do you got?
I mean, when you look at what happened this past week, it's probably, in my opinion, one of maybe the most watched events of what happened around the coaching carousel,
Yeah.
especially down here in the South. So many coaches moved. Kentucky fired Mark Stoops. They weren't going to fire him. Then they fired him. Then they get the offensive coordinator from Oregon. Then Auburn really surprised me with their hire. A lot of people thought it was going to be DJ Duncan. It was going to be able to retain the job, but he stayed on as defensive coordinator. But Lane Kiffin, I like Lane. And like I said, like right now, a lot of people don't like Lane. They have their opinions. But Lane did, I think, what's best for him. People called him selfish. But at the end of the day, LSU is a better job than Ole Miss. Y'all might not agree with me. I don't know. We all have opinions. To me, I see a situation, and maybe y'all might call me crazy, but know when Nick Saban took that Alabama job and they went on that run of about what? How many national championships they went under Nick?
They had more fingers with rings on them than any man should ever have. What, they get 6?
Yeah. So I'm not saying that Lane gonna have that type of run, but when I look at it, and I looked at it today, they recruiting class, they signed one of the top 3 tight ends in the country, the number 1 JUCO prospect out of Illinois. They signed 2 outstanding receivers. One is like a receiver out of Alabama that's ranked 5th in the state. And yourself, even Mr. Harper LeBel, you seen Lane offense up close and personal. And I remember something you said early on. You said, man, Ole Miss got these four receivers and they go itching other way and ain't nobody can stop them. And think about Lane going to the state of Louisiana. Malik Neighbors, Glenn Dorsey, Odell Beckham Jr., Anthony McFarland, Wendell Davis, Patrick Queen. What do all them have in common?
Joe
Fir-
Burrow. Joe Burrow is what they
Joe
had in common.
Burrow,
He had a great quarterback.
first round.
First
And now you,
overall. First
and then you
overall.
put that offensive mind in Baton Rouge. And I know what the state of Louisiana is about because I have a sister in Sidell, and I love visiting New Orleans. It's one of my favorite cities. And Mr. LeBel, you've been to one of their games, and you know how them Cajuns get down there on Saturday night. Yes, it's gonna be the must see TV. Back to you, gentlemen.
Well, what do you think, Vincent, of the fact that I'm an Ole Miss wide receiver or a tight end or an offensive lineman, and we're getting ready for the game that my coach has told me that we are ready to get into, and I've waited my 2, 3, 4 years, sometimes 7 years to make this happen. And all of a sudden, after we beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, we got to figure out, wait a second, he's going to have a press conference tomorrow. What are you talking about? We're going to lose this man. We've just devoted everything that we've got into him, and he's going to go there to our rival? How is your personal feeling for the players associated with what the business decision that he couldn't turn down? I think Ole Miss could have matched or come pretty close to matching. And if they win a national championship this year with him there, he's got his statue, and he can stay there for as long as he wants. He'll never get booed. He'll bring them something that they haven't had for a millennium. Your thoughts first, and then I'll go to Brian.
All the points you brought up are real substantial. I agree with you 100%. But when Brian Kelly got fired in midseason, do you think that these people in Oxford didn't realize that there was a possibility that he was going to be moving? He was the hottest coach on the horizon right then and there. And I understand the feelings in Oxford. Don't get me wrong. But I look at it like this. No coaches move. I felt the same way when Lane Kiffin was at the University of Tennessee. That one year, he brought Tennessee to 7-6, had the #1 recruiting class coming in, things were looking up, but he went out to USC. I understand that. That was his dream job. I felt a certain way, but I understood. So I'm looking at this. Ole Miss, he's had a great 6-year run. He's brought the program to where it's never been since 1963. The year Roger Staubach won the Heisman and Kent Deal was All-American at Ole Miss. But you know it's a business decision, and I feel for the kids. Don't get me wrong. But we in the NIL era, and trust me, after a week's time, everybody's going to get over it, especially Ole Miss wins a game in the college football playoffs. I know a lot of people look at Lane in the wrong way and look at himself. I understand what you're saying about the kids, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, this is my opinion, LSU is a better job, gentlemen. It's better. 3 coaches and 1 national championships. Get the looks off your face, baby. It's a better job. Louisiana's got athletes. Mr. LeBel, you played in the era of Joe Delaney. So I know how you feel. Don't get me wrong. Everybody could dislike me, but at the end of the day, I'm not mad at Lane. To me, he went to a better situation where he can win multiple national championships. And that's life. Back to you, sir.
They're 7-5. They're 3-5 in the conference. One of the worst records right now. And you're going to tell me that what he's done in such a short amount of time at Ole Miss can be repeated, and I wouldn't argue with you. Brian, before I make my comments, and I really don't need to, give me your perspective on, you got a bunch of players, you got a bunch of administrators, you got a whole slew of people that live and breathe in the Grove that are wondering what the heck just happened. How did my school not match the offer to keep him for at least a year or two? And what on earth happened to where he's going not only to where we're going to have to face him every year from here in the future, but he just left us with a bag of rocks.
It's going to be interesting because if they are able to replicate success, let's say LSU, they don't even have to be maybe necessarily national champion next year, but if they're a playoff team, there's no chance that Charlie Weiss Jr. doesn't get a head coaching gig the year after, right? Because he's just as much a part of the success. And then we're really going to find out, hey, how much of this offense, how much of Ole Miss being the juggernaut that they become is him. And look, give Lane credit. He's had success everywhere he's gone, but he's got 0 SEC championships, none, haven't won one. I don't think that he has as a head coach. I don't think he's got a playoff win. I mean, he's got plenty of success, obviously, when he was, a Saban disciple, but there's still a lot to prove here. This is kind of his put up or shut up moment, right? Because the expectations were there at Ole Miss, but it wasn't necessarily like, okay, it's not Alabama, it's not Georgia, it's not Florida, it's not a juggernaut in the SEC. Although he turned them around, this is the big leagues now. This is what he's wanted. He's got all the money in the world. I don't know if there's a team that's going to spend more money than LSU next year between their coaching staff and recruiting, which if you look at how much they spent last year in the talent, I mean, that's why Brian Kelly was canned. This team had talent up and down the board. Garrett Nussmeier was rumored to be maybe the first quarterback off the board, 3-4 months ago. Fast forward now, and it's everything's kind of changed, but it's going to be real interesting as far as what happens with Lane Kiffin. I mean, you and I were talking earlier. I mean, he's still a pretty young dude, given, what he's done and his experience. And, he might be coaching for another contract even after this, but it's put up or shut up time now. You're going to have to be up there with the Kirby Smarts. You're going to have to be up there with the Ryan Days now, because you're getting paid like it, and you're going to be in the national spotlight, certainly like those guys are.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when you said who's going to spend more, Ohio State has spent more, and they've got how many first rounders, Vincent? They've got 22 guys that play on offense and defense. Do they have 21 first rounders? I mean, seriously, they are so stinking loaded. I think LSU is too. LSU has been for the last 5, 8, 10, 20 years. You mentioned the names, Vincent. I'm just saying this is an emotional thing. A business decision could have been corrected to where Mississippi State could have ripped up his contract. They could have amended some things and given him some more money to keep him to stay, knowing full well that there was an offer that was real, genuine, and a hard money that was going to change it. But they didn't. And because they didn't, LSU has a new football coach right now. They said, we are going to spend the money. We're going to invest it to get rid of the previous coach and bring in the new guy and spend to get the amount that he's going to need to bring in some of the top recruits that may want to go to SC Michigan or Auburn. Absolutely. So this is an enormous investment for that school and that university. And if in any way, shape, or form it backfires with another 7-5 record over the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be hearing screaming and they'll be wailing and gnashing of teeth in the worst way possible. Am I wrong? Vincent, start with you.
Of course. They're going to be wanting them out of there. There's no question about it. I mean, I like the points Brian brought up. He brought up one key point. He says big boy ball now. He went to a place, obviously he wants this. He wants to shine on them. He wants the spotlight. So all you got to do is win. But I'm telling you, he's going to a situation, they got players. LSU's got talent. They've had so much NFL talent over the years. The only other school I can think of, I'm talking about on the offensive side of the ball, is Ohio State. At one time, they was calling LSU wide receiver U, if I'm correct. And I'm right, fellas?
Yeah.
Okay, so he going to get the offensive down there. And you already said, Harper, Mr. LeBel, let me say that you seen his offense up close and personal the first game of the year against Georgia State. And you were saying, man, them 4 wide receiver sets. And you know the good thing about it, like I like what Brian said, they open up with Clemson. And both of them going to be nationally ranked. And LSU, I think, has got a real tough schedule next year. So he going to get the fire coming out of this kitchen.
Yeah.
And you don't think he saw that schedule? But this one thing he saw. The state of Louisiana puts out very good offensive football players. And y'all know that. When you got a school that's had 3 different coaches and win the national championship, they're saying something. And let's keep it honest here, 100. In my opinion, Lane Kiffin a way much better coach than Les Miles. Let's keep it real. He's a way better coach than Ed Orgeron. Don't look away, Harper. You know I'm telling the truth. I got to put you on, baby. Look at it. I love when he get mad on here because he going to start bringing up the kitty cats on my Memphis Tigers. But that's the truth. That's the truth. Like Son said, Brian, the one good point Brian had brought up to open the show, he going to where LSU is going to be where the great ones go. The great coaches make something happen. And I'm not going to disrespect the man there because he want to be on that level. Now, of course, it's going to be a lot of expectations. They're going to expect him to make the college football playoffs and get to the national championship game. Maybe in his first year, no doubt the second year.
Yeah.
But this is a school, I'm going to say it one more time. They've had three different coaches and won the national championship. And they had two coaches, in my opinion, weren't even good football coaches. They just had good staffs around them. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
I like Les Miles. I think Les Miles done a good job. Matt Hatter, he was good at Kansas too. He won, they exiled him, but he was still good. They still competed.
Okay, but let me ask you again. Who the better coach? You taking Les or Lane? Be
Right
honest.
now, I take Lane Kiffin. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
see, that's
yeah,
why I love you,
yeah,
baby. Be honest.
yeah,
Let's be honest here. That's all I'm saying. Don't let
yeah,
your emotions get in. Let's be honest. And I know Lane probably rubbed some people the wrong way. You heard so many stories. His story is different from the athletic director, Keith Clark. His story from this person. You saw how the Ole Miss fans reacted when he got on the plane to Baton Rouge. They was throwing the finger sign up, and I ain't gonna repeat what they said.
yeah. He got
But
delayed twice. Angry Ole Miss fans, and then LSU fans happy to greet
yeah,
him. Yeah, the
so so
best and worst of it. Yeah,
so at the end of the day, what's so great about college football about this situation is either produce or next year I might have egg on my face. I don't mind about that. If I put myself out there, come get a piece of me. But I think he's going to be very successful in LSU with that type of offensive players they get and the
yeah,
system they run. They're going to score some points down there. I don't know who he going to hire as a D coordinator because they say he's looking to hire Blake Baker, but Mr. Baker look like he's going to take the Tulane job, the former LSU D coordinator. So at
yeah.
the end of the day, I think it was great TV, great talking points last week. Lane Kiffin was like, hey, Michael Jackson on skates, baby, in the SEC. Every time you got up in the morning, Lane Kiffin this, Lane Kiffin that. He in the yoga. He looks good. Good looking man. And I'm going to tell you a true story, gentlemen. When I went to the University of Arkansas, I was 18 years old. I held this story, this tailored on the platform tonight. As a true freshman, I went to the dining hall where all the freshmen go. So they have a lot of freshman football players. And somebody came in and they said, hey, man, that's a D coordinator from Arkansas. That's Monty Kiffin. And he had this little blonde haired kid on his shoulders. You know who it was? It was Lane Kiffin. I didn't know at the time be talking about this, but the Lord is good, and I'm very blessed to be with two outstanding, talented gentlemen to tell that story. Man, if you would have told me that, I would have said, hey, you insane. Back to you, LaBelle's.
All right, Brian, final thoughts before we move on.
Lane Kiffin's about to make a lot of money. SEC is about to make a lot of money.
There you
Honestly, I'll say this: we haven't even talked about the SEC championship game yet, and I don't know if DeBoer and Kirby are upset or thrilled at the fact that nobody's even really paying much attention to the game and everyone's talking about Lane Kiffin. I don't know if that's something you like. I mean, obviously, I think the players want the attention and whatever else, but I think they, especially on Georgia's side, they've been here so many times under Kirby that it's just, it is what it is. But we haven't even talked about the game. No one's talked about the game. We're talking about Lane Kiffin.
Well, we'll talk about the game in just a moment. We're also going to know that the nation will turn to it probably Thursday or Friday.
Yeah,
certainly before that
Right.
4:00 kick on Saturday. My only thought is this: if I'm LSU, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas, Texas A&M,
yeah,
Ole Miss, and Alabama, you've got to go through all of them if you're going to win a SEC championship and get to the playoff. They're not there today, but they think that they are going to be. 6 of those teams are ranked even now. So very interesting how that is going to pan out. We don't know. I wish the school well. They're going to spend a ton of money to bring in new talent because they want to turn their ship around today.
yeah.
And they've had some recruiting successes in just the last 48 hours, right, Vincent? You just mentioned a
Yes,
couple of
sir.
guys that are already there. So they were holding on for dear life just by their fingernails on the edge of the cliff. And Lane Kiffin saved a few of those kids from going to another school, and I think LSU will be all the better for it. But there is a game, an SEC championship, and we will talk about it. Georgia will be the visiting road team, even though they're closer to home and they'll be playing in Mercedes-Benz. They're the number 3 team in the country. They're 11-1. Alabama is number 9 in the country. The Crimson Tide are 10-2. For obvious reasons, this is the game. The champion of this one will automatically go. Will Alabama end up going if they lose? Vincent, I'll start with you because I know Georgia is your team. Your shekels are on the Bulldogs to win it all. Tell me why Alabama should be in if they end up losing this game and still be a part at a 10-3 team asking for the playoff to include them.
Okay, again, you have a habit of putting me on the spot as you always do, and you hold me to my word. Yes, I'm gonna say it nationally again. I'm going with the Bulldogs to win the
Yep,
national championship.
that's all
So I'm
fair.
not gonna
That's
get out. I'm not gonna get out that seat. So I want
okay.
everybody to make that clear. And so now to your point with the University of Alabama, they're in what I call desperation mode. They have not been playing good football the last couple of weeks, and I mean with their quarterback Ty Simpson. He struggled against Oklahoma. Came back the next week. He struggled against Eastern Illinois. He had 2 picks in that game, even though they blew that game. They blew Eastern Illinois out. Last week against Auburn, I watched that game from play to play. He missed some throws in that football game. But I'm gonna say this: I expect him to play somewhat well on Saturday night. I think the biggest key, if I'm Alabama, they running back Jam Miller is not going to beat up because they were having some success running the football. And Alabama's playing very good defense. Their defense has really been, I think, one of the top defenses in the country over the last few weeks. But I think in this football game, going against a football team that you said earlier on the other show, and you was correct, Mr. Harper LeBel, that Alabama's dominated Georgia. For some reason, they've had Georgia's number. But this is a different ball game right here. It's a lot of pressure on Alabama, and at 10-3, it's going to be kind of if they lose this game to Georgia, it's going to be up in the air of them getting in. Now I'm gonna say this: it depends to me, regardless if they lose to Georgia or not. All eyes are going to be on that ACC game. Virginia loses, then I think Alabama has a great shot at getting in. Because the college football playoffs are not going to take an 8-5 Duke, the Blue Devils team. Remember what they changed this year. They taking the best teams that's ranked, and they not taking no conference champion at 8-5. And I'm gonna leave it with that. I expect Georgia to win the football game. I think Gunnar Stockton. Every time we think he's really not really progressing. He didn't play well against Georgia Tech last week. I'm not going to sit up. He said he did. But, man, you look at the big football games, Tennessee, Georgia wouldn't have won that football game. He went through for 300 yards. He played well against Alabama. He had that one throw, the kid drops a touchdown. We're talking about a different game, maybe in the Georgia-Alabama game. He played very, very well against Texas. When everybody's saying Arch Manning was the man, Gunnar Stockton came from that field and really, to me, stopped putting this conversation to Heisman talk. And Georgia's starting to play defense a little better. And I think if you had to say who was the better coach, I think all y'all would agree with me, including y'all two nice gentlemen. Kirby Smart is a little better coach than Caleb DeBoer. Although he hasn't beaten Alabama, that's been his nemesis. I'm riding all that on the dogs. Ugga gonna eat on Saturday. Back to you, Harper.
Alabama's 18th in the country in passing at 278 yards. They're 104th in rushing with 126 per ball game. 104th, Brian. They score 33 points a game. That's 26. And defensively, they give up 16.5 points a game. That's 11th. They're not in the top 10 in any category, and they're outside of the 100 in rushing. That's basically a Bear Bryant, Nick Saban taboo that you can't get away with. Tell me how Alabama is going to win this game if they don't run the ball well, and Georgia does play well against the run, and they're going to depend on their passing game. Is that going to be enough for them to get another win against a Georgia team that Alabama has notoriously favored and wanted to play because they can beat them year after year after year in terms of championship games and playoff games.
Well, if they do what they did 2 months ago between the hedges, it absolutely is. They had their leading rusher at 46 yards. But if Gunnar Stockton is held to 120 passing yards like he was in that football game, yeah, I think Alabama's got a great shot. I think the idea is control the line of scrimmage, even if you're not running the ball for big chunk plays. If you can get 3 or 4 yards and give yourself manageable second and third and mediums and third and shorts, that's going to be solid. Don't turn the ball over, which, they played a clean game last time they played Georgia. And I think you're going to have to control the tempo of the game. I think you have to control the clock, and you're going to try to keep Georgia's offense off the field as much as possible. I think this is a very good Georgia team, but there are weeks where, like, if you go back and watch them against Georgia Tech last week, they looked very beatable. They won. They played well enough on defense, but the offense looked like they did in that first game against Alabama. And I'm not 100% sold on the Bulldogs offensively. Now, I will say this. I think they're going to rise to the occasion. I absolutely think that Kirby wants to beat these guys. He does. He's not going to say it in the media. They're not going to make a big deal about it, but this is a big game for him. They beat him at home. This year and last year they lost to them, kind of heartbreaking fashion in Alabama. So Georgia Tech is a team that's going to play them tough because they hate those guys. They hate Georgia, and they felt like they should have beat them the year before. But it's interesting. I think this is going to be a big game for the Bulldogs. I think they need to start fast. I think they need to get points early. I think they need to put the pressure on Alabama's offense quickly. And if they do stop the run, like Alabama, like you said, they haven't been able to run the football all year. I think Georgia's going to have to exploit that. I think they're going to have to get after it. I think they're going to have a lot of energy early. And I think they're going to want to get, I think they're going to want to put Alabama and Ty Simpson behind the 8 ball and kind of get them off their game and get them off what they want to do offensively.
Well, I gave you the numbers for Alabama just a moment ago. Defensively, they're number 11 in the country. Guess who's number 12? That's Georgia. Yep. So if all things being equal in terms of SEC, and I know that not everybody plays exactly the same schedule, but just work with me for a second. If the SEC caliber defense can stop at number 11 or 12, and the difference is maybe a third of a point when you divide it over a 12-game schedule, here's where one of the differences is, where Georgia, in my opinion, would have the ability to say we should be the favorite here. They're 34th in the nation scoring. They average 32 points a game. Alabama was a little bit higher than that, but Georgia rushes the ball much better, 190 yards a game. They're 28th in the country, where I just told you a moment ago, Alabama is 104th in the country.
Yeah.
The running game for Georgia is stronger, at least against similar defenses. And passing-wise, they're 225 yards a game. They're 69th in the country. They're comparable. So I think the running game and basically the offensive defensive lines will control the winner of this game. Am I wrong? Brian, we'll start with you.
No, absolutely. I think if you look at across the board, it's 4 and 5-star guys across the board at these positions, right? Offensive, defensive line. It's first and second round NFL talent as far as the eye can see for both of these teams. It's just I think, like you said, they're evenly matched. I think it's going to come down to playing mistake-free football, and I think it's going to be whoever plays from ahead. Because the last 2 times, Alabama's had good starts against the Bulldogs, and that's been the key, right? Georgia's had to play from behind. The game last year with Carson Beck, they had a phenomenal second half. They just the offense clicked, and they were able. But they're down so many points that it didn't.
Who had a phenomenal second half?
Carson Beck, who's not there.
I understand, but Georgia did, correct?
Correct. Yeah, but
who had a phenomenal first half?
Alabama did.
Okay, that's
good start.
That's my point.
It's you get off to a good start. I think that's going to be the tell in this game. Is I think both teams, and it may not necessarily be like an early score. It might be, hey, let's get a punt, let's pin them deep, right? Let's make them play against the back. Let's have their backs against the end zone. Let's get them in third and long, right? That's what Georgia wants. If they can't run the football, if we can get a sack here or maybe a holding penalty, whatever it is, right? Make Alabama play off of what they've been doing. Make Ty Simpson uncomfortable, because it's at the end of the day, I mean, the kid's got a good chance to win the Heisman Trophy. They can't run the football for anything, and he's willed this team with his arm to where they are now. So absolutely, Georgia's they're going to have to get him off his spot.
Brian, is there any possibility that the game earlier this year, the game you mentioned from last year, the game the year before, the playoff game from the year before, the playoff game from the year before, and the regular season game from the year before, where Alabama has won and won and won and won and won, does any of that play in the head of either the head of the coaches or of some of the players, is the possibility of that exist to where if Georgia gets back, if they get back down early and they get behind, they might go, oh no, here we go again. Is there a possibility that that would take place?
Yeah, for the
I think
guys
so as well.
that have been there, absolutely, because this is all they've known.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts are going into their second contracts, and it was even them beating up on Georgia in key spots. So it's just and it's wild because Georgia is still they've climbed the mountaintop, right? They've won national championships. They beat Ohio State. They beat a very good Ohio State team a couple years ago. But
and they beat an Alabama team, but
they didn't beat an Alabama team. No.
And that's all I'm saying. So the possibility exists that it could go wrong, but also does the possibility that this time, that this team, and in this moment, they go here with us. Is that a possibility, Brian, as well?
Yeah, and I think
of course.
Another thing is going to be if Georgia wins this game and Alabama does get in the playoff, which I think there's a decent chance they do. Alabama's going to have Georgia's going to be the favorite, right? They're going to say, "Hey, in our minds, we've beaten these guys. We already beat these guys this year in a playoff setting," and I think it's going to be huge for them because now, if Georgia loses this game, it's kind of the wild, wild west based on whatever happens the rest of the way. I mean, Georgia's played an almost flawless season. These are the only guys that have kept them from being undefeated. They should be undefeated right now. So, yeah, it's in the back of their minds, and it's the monkey that Kirby's got to get off his back. I think this would mean almost as much to him if they could beat Alabama, especially twice in this playoff run. Even if they don't win a national championship, it'd be huge for him.
Mm-hmm.
We dropped out for a second, please. Both sides of the story. I think Georgia can have some things that happen that are an issue for them, and they fall. They can all. We're not going to have any of that this time. We're going to dominate, and because obviously. And there's nothing that tells me, oh, we're going to win this game.
So when I started, my hand was like anchored.
We back, guys?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. I have no idea where
difficulties.
Stuff happens, folks. It happens. Vincent, my question to you was: I've given Georgia's side my history. The way I look at it, it's very difficult for me to be able to say Georgia's going to win this game, win it clearly, because I don't see where they're going to do that, and they haven't done it. But tell me where I'm wrong, and where this year's team and Kirby Smart and the quarterback game, everything is going to go right, and you've got a situation where you're going to defeat Alabama, you're going to do it in the state of Georgia in front of all these fans, and it's going to be a great win for the Bulldogs.
Well, if I'm a Georgia fan and I'm Kirby Smart, all those games are in the past. It's what counts on the field on Saturday. We know what Georgia's going to do. Georgia's success is running the football. If their offensive line is healthy, Ernest Green especially, and they able to run the football with Nate Frazier, Chauncey Barnes, they get in a situation where Gunnar Stockton can make some plays with his legs, and then Mike Bobo calls a great game. And we know once Mike Bobo calls a great game, it's going to the tight end. That tight end, I think, is going to be a huge spot for Georgia this week. And like I said, Georgia's played defense pretty well over the last couple of weeks. And I always say this: I'm gonna tell you two big players in this game: Ryan Williams for the University of Alabama and Zachariah Branch from Georgia, because they're going to be the two most explosive players on the field. Mr. Branch, I always like to go back when he was at SC and him and Caleb Williams was making music. Georgia's kind of used them in certain situations, but I think we ain't seen that game where Zachariah Branch makes that play. Woo, NFL on board. And Ryan Williams, all the controversy over there with him not catching a pass with Auburn. But getting back to Georgia, I think Kirby knows very simple. And good point that Brian brought up. Alabama really won the time of possession in that first game. I think Alabama had the ball like 41 minutes, where Georgia only had it 19.
Yep.
But I think if Georgia Mike Bobo calls a game mixing in the pass with the tight end being involved. Then you got Mr. Branch outside, explosive with Noah Thomas. I think Georgia's going to be all right. And the moment ain't going to be too big for Gunnar Stockton because he's not coming off the bench. He's been a starter. And if I had to lay my money, trust me on this and listen to me on this. Ty Simpson has played a Heisman Trophy season. There's no question about it. And he's got to play well for Alabama to win on Saturday. But Gunnar Stockton, all I keep saying to myself, he rose to the occasion against Tennessee. He rose to the occasion against Ole Miss. And he really rose to the occasion when all the money and all the glitz and glamour were on Arch Manning. Now he got the SC championship game. I think the young man is going to play pretty well. And I think, as I'm going to say, put my money on the Dogs are going to win it all. They're going to prove a point in the SC championship game. And when they get in the college football playoffs, they are going to be the team that's going to be tough to beat. And I'm taking them over anybody right now. And that includes Ohio State. Even though Ohio State might have better NFL talent, the Dog got some talent too. And I love Zachariah Branch. I think he's a playmaker waiting to happen, and I think he's going to make some plays on Saturday. And I leave it at that. The Dogs, as Mr. Brian LeBel said, the game is going to be won at the line of scrimmage. This is a Kirby Smart type game. What do Kirby Smart? We like to pound you in the ground with that ball, running it. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, we've got that game at 4 o'clock. Obviously, it's the feature of this week. We've also had lots of coaching changes. We spent most of our time talking about Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss and going to Louisiana State University. The Tigers there at LSU are certainly delighted. They're going to pay a little bit higher prices for the season tickets next year, but it's going to be one of those you better show me and get ready to go. They've already seen some really positive implications from the recruiting. On the other side of the coin, Brian, real quick, let's just go with Florida right now. They're also in a search. Tulane seems to be in the same situation that Ole Miss is, where their coach is going to be leaving right as they get ready to be in their championship game. And if they win that, they've got an outside chance, but still a chance nonetheless to be in the playoff. Give me your thoughts first and foremost about how this is changing before our very eyes, where are we going to get numbed to the point and dumbed down to the, hey, you got to make the coaching decision because the recruiting schedule is on the clock. You've got another few days before the first recruits can be signed from high schools, and we've got to make our coaching decision in time to be able to do that. We don't care if there's a team that's in the playoff or if they've got a bowl game or if they've got a championship game. We don't care. We've got to get our guys in. It's just a part of the blood that gets into the water in a coaching carousel for the NCAA.
You know, I wonder if we're going to have updated contracts for a lot of these teams where we're going to make it mandatory for you to have to coach through at least the playoffs, right? For a lot of these teams, because it's crazy to think that how much college football, the dynamic of it has changed over the last handful of years. It's the Wild West right now. You got teams, you know, obviously you got kids sitting out bowl games has kind of become the norm, right? You go back a decade, it was unheard of. Even if you're going pro, guys weren't even necessarily sitting out of some of these bowl games.
Well, Christian McCaffrey is one of the first guys, in my opinion, that chose to say, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and not play in the game. And Stanford, I think, still won that Rose Bowl without him, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. But nonetheless, you know, I as a teammate would go, why would you leave me? Why would I want to play if you're not going to play? Someone has to do this. It is an unfair portion of thing, and you have the freedom of choice to make the decision, and he did. Other players either can choose to play or not to play. Please continue. I'm sorry I interrupted you there.
No, it's the norm now. It's just everybody does it. You got kids that are transferring. You got kids sitting out playoff games, SEC, ACC, Big 12 championship games. It's just it's a massive distraction. I think they're going to kind of have to get this under control. I know we were too far in the other direction where the rules are too strict, and then we kind of just took the lid off of it. Now it's a gigantic mess, and it's really going to be hard to put this all back in, you know, Pandora's box, so to speak. But I think it's a bad look for college football when you have potentially two playoff teams who may be without their head coaches going into, you know, you're going to have tens of millions of people watching these games, and it's just the dynamic of it has changed. And I think it's a bad look for the sport. I think it's become more so about the money, which I think it's always kind of been about that. And that's usually what it is. It's entertainment, but still, I think it's unfair to some of these kids. Like we mentioned early in the show, it's unfair to some of these programs, but I don't hate where we are. I just think that we kind of need to tone it down a little bit, and at least have some structure in, where we're headed as far as the, what is the college football landscape.
If you can figure it out, let's write a book and I'll read it. I'll
Put
figure
me
it out.
Put me on the playoff committee, right? Let me get
Yeah.
a spot on the playoff committee. Let's get that figured out first, right? Who's going and who's out, and let's set some parameters there.
Vincent, your thoughts here before we go.
It's just a change of times, man. It's more money in college football. ESPN, one of the first networks. I remember when they came on the scene in '81, when they started doing college football, and you got to take it from there. It's a lot of money involved in college football now. You got so many different networks. You can see so many games. Matter of fact, you can see everybody play, maybe your favorite team. And most of all, the athlete is getting paid now, which they weren't getting paid. So now it's an even game, and a lot of people felt, well, if a coach was going to make a change and he leaves a program, then the players should have the same opportunity. And players are getting paid. And me personally, I don't have a problem with a kid sitting out a bowl game if it's going to protect his interests, if he's going to make generational money and really save his family from poverty. And I think when we look at it, to make a long story short, the game has changed and knows so many aspects, and so many people in these kids' ear, and it's not enough guidance. So when you
Yeah.
come from this situation, you're gonna have things like this happen. So players, they seeing coaches making moves, getting salaries, and now you paying these players. They're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna protect their interests. To me personally, I think college football is the second level of the pro game now. And remember what Coach Sherrill told us, Harper, that when it's all said and done, what he said the model was going to be, it was only going to be about 60 teams. Did he say that?
Give or take. Yep.
Yeah.
No
So,
more. Not more. Less.
I think, in my opinion, me being a football fan ever since I'm small, the most thing I appreciated, you can watch a lot more games. There's so many other avenues to see your teams out there that might not, you think, can get there. Just like a Tulane. You can watch them and then watch their stories. To me, it's a lot of more Cinderella stories now because players can transfer. They're not playing what you can look at it indifferent. They could go somewhere and then be a difference maker in that program. But I know people a lot upset, a lot of schools, coaches jumping, players jumping, but we in the middle of the time. I'm a huge University of Tennessee fan. Josh Heupel. He loses to Vanderbilt. All of a sudden, you hear him. The University of Tennessee want him out of there. Or then now he rumored to go to Penn State. Then you take my Memphis Tigers, the Kitty Cats. I'm glad to see Ryan Silverfield leave because I didn't think he was a good coach, but he went to the school I graduated from, University of Arkansas. Come on, man, y'all can do better than that. But you got schools that's desperate. You got schools that are gonna do this. And when you look at it, it's all about winning and getting to the college football playoffs because it's going to bring you more revenue and more money. So we just in a new era, and it's not going to change. And like Coach Jackie Sherrill said, he said, get ready for a model of just going to be 60 teams. It's going to be like an NFL game. Back to you, Mr. LeBel.
Well, we're going to be looking at the SEC championship game on Saturday. Again, it'll be at 4 o'clock. You've got here from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta, Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide, number 3 versus number 9 in the country right now. Obvious playoff implications there. If Georgia wins, they're in. They're already in. They just secure their position. They might even move up one spot, depending on how the other championships work. If Alabama wins, they will fight like crazy to say that we should be in as well, and they will be. They bring a lot of people and a lot of money and a lot of eyeballs on them. That's an important aspect of it. But we're going to find out, obviously, the last game will be the ACC championship, and that kicks off at 8 o'clock. So we'll know by the end of the evening who has the better chance and what the odds are. Virginia and Duke play in that game. But playoff implications obviously looming large, and this is the biggest week, obviously, for the SEC in terms of that. We also have a hole that is in Ole Miss's camp with their coach and a number of the assistants leaving and going to LSU. LSU has filled a hole. There's a hole at Tulane because their coach ends up going to Florida. Florida fills the hole up there, and you're going to see a lot of moving around here in the next couple of weeks. For obvious reasons, the recruiting cycle is going to be critical for this year to be able to get the job and secure that and have the money to do so, and then to be able to recruit from there. How people balance that out, it is absolutely amazing to me. But it does leave another university where an existing coach will have some tremendous issues trying to have that hole filled in that university. So lots of issues. We'll go over that in the future. We do want to say thank you for being a part of the show. For not feeling very good, Juan Daniels. Thank you, Brian LeBel, for filling in. We appreciate that from you. And for Vincent Turner, our co-host and our founder, for obvious reasons, thank you for being on the show. And all of us are giving our opinions on what we believe. Go ahead, Vincent.
Yeah, my final words today is I want to send a shout out and much thanks, and very proud of something that happened on 100 yards of football today. Want to give love to you, Harper. Outstanding job what you did with Mr. October. I know this is a football show, but I got to put it out there. Great job with the legend himself, Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, being a guest on the platform today. And this gentleman, Mr. Harper LeBel, A plus for the interview. I just want to say that before we leave this evening.
Well, that's very kind of you, but really it was Reggie and it was Bob Case. So the two of them put that together. I was just put in a position where you're in the room and don't mess it up. And I hope that I didn't. But thank you.
Yes,
that was a very unique show for a lot of reasons where Reggie does not give interviews. And he did for Bob. And we are blessed and absolutely greatly appreciative that Reggie would give us his valuable time on 100 yards. So thank you for that, Reggie. And again, for Bob Case. Watch the show, folks. And if you enjoy it, please share it with your friends and neighbors, and we'd certainly appreciate that as well. So for Brian LeBel, Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in to the SEC Preview Champion Week show on 100 Yards of Football. Have a fantastic